that we do, and we'll get into kind of the various markets that we touch. So my name is Noelle Poulvara. I'm a project architect currently at Stantec. I've worked for Stantec at both the San Antonio and Austin offices for a little over 5 years. And I have nothing but good things to say about the work that Stantec does. I find it to be really meaningful work. And then additionally, I think that the folks that we work with, Juanir and myself, are just really passionate about the work that they're doing and work and team well together. So that's really kind of brought me to Stantec initially and has brought me back to the San Antonio office. I originally am from the East Coast and moved out to Texas. If you could be on mute, make sure you're on mute, others. Thank you. Yeah, I'm originally from the East Coast and moved to Texas with my husband when he was pursuing his master's at UT Austin. And we've settled here and love Texas. So sometimes the heat gets to us, but other than that, we're just really happy to be in Texas. I did my 5-year undergraduate degree at Syracuse University in upstate New York. Loved my time there. And then practiced for a while. I had interned in Tokyo and also did a bulk of my internship hours in Baltimore, Maryland at a firm called GWWO. And then practiced at Stantec in Austin in educational work. And then I decided to pursue my master's in urban design to get into kind of understanding a larger scale. The work at Stantec is so broad, and I found myself working with a lot of civil engineers and landscape architects and wanting to know a little bit more about kind of that larger scale or realm. So went back for urban design. I've practiced for a while as an urban designer at Overland Partners, but have found that my passion really still is in kind of architecture, so returned back here. I'm also a current adjunct faculty at the school or the architecture program at San Antonio College.
Hello, everyone. I'm Juanir Magaloni. I'm Associate Project Manager here with Stantec. I've been with the firm 15 years. It will be in June, 15 years. It was my first job interview. And I actually started in the Austin office and asked to move to San Antonio, back to San Antonio, when I was about to have my baby, so I could manage a better personal and professional life side by side. So I've been in the San Antonio office for the past 10 years. She's as old as my daughter. I got my undergrad in Brazil. I'm from Brazil. Got my 5 years degree there, which is architecture and urban planning, and came to the United States to get my master's degree, which I attended at UTSA. I'm an alumni of UTSA, one of the first students with a credit program in architecture, a master program at UTSA. And as I graduated my last year of doing my master's, I met my husband and we got married. So stayed here, basically. Long story short, stay here, and I've been here since then. But as I mentioned, right after I graduated, we moved to Austin because of his job, and I started there with the company there. And one of the things that attracted me about this company, it was really the expertise, the area of educational. I want to do schools. I find very meaningful among of the works in architecture. It's one of that taught my heart the most because of the impact I think I leave behind. Most of the projects we do is K through 12, is public school. That is a personal belief on the value of that work, and which gives a little bit more of, brings more of my heart to what I do. So as I mentioned, I've been in the company 15 years, and I went through the process with the company as I started as an intern. My role goes back and forth. I can go as the PA, develop the drawings as I go back to the project manager and manage the financial of the project, but that's what I got me here. So talking a little bit more of how you guys are all familiar with that. There is no, I'm assuming even in the school, you have an idea of how the process and the project goes through and how we started with the programming, the schematic design and so forth. And each firm has its own way of managing that. And what we do, the way we manage it at Stantec is we basically have three major roles in a project, which is the design architect, the project architect, and the project manager. The design architect, it's fully involved on the beginning of the project and the programming and the visioning and the schematic, and then put the presentation and the renderings and the looks of the project. The PA, who we call the project architect, it's the one, which it's a lot what Noelle does. It's the one that works very heavily in the middle of the process, which is putting the set of the drawings together, is the person responsible to coordinate with the consultants and get the information and make sure to meet codes and make sure that we're following and we meet deadlines. And the project manager, we intensify the work in the end from the bidding to the CA, but it's the one that is from the beginning to the end, because and at Stantec, at least the project manager actually is what we say is the face of the client, of the firm with the client. We're involved from the beginning with the discussion. We are responsible for the financial of the project. So I have my meetings, financial meetings, that I have to discuss how productive my team is going and how efficient we're doing, and the financial aspect of it. So we are involved from the beginning, and we have a direct bidding in construction, because at that time mostly we kind of take on our own, but that time the team, the rest of the team kind of moves on to another project, and will be continue being the reference, the face of the project to the team. Noelle, did I miss anything?
No, I think, this, you'll find, I think, in larger firms that this is primarily the organization of roles that you'll have: the design, the project and architect, and the project manager. But that's not to say that, we don't cross-pollinate, for lack of better words. So as a project architect, I will assist with the design architect in the design, and I will go on site during construction administration. But my primary role is kind of like Juanir said, is coordinating the documents and all of the consultants, and making sure that the building is really documented and made in a set forth in a way that is representative of what the initial design that was brought forth. So
just a little bit back on that. We don't work in silos. It's a
no.
really collaborative process. Again, that schedule just show more of the intensive time of work of each of the roles have. But it goes through, and the larger is the project, the more of that separation. It's not a silent, it's really just more the intensifying of the project. But there are projects, small projects, it's sometimes one person does everything. So you go through the design, depends on the level of complexity of the project. The team gets bigger, and that becomes even more a clear definition of roles. But small projects, it can be just one person doing it all.
Right. And I think, as we've both spoken to Stantec, I think you'll find if you go to our website or kind of look in or research us as a company, we do a wide variety of work. And with that, it in terms of unifying kind of as a company, as a group, as a team. They have always kind of set forth these values, these 4 values. And the first one, we put people first, I think is really at the heart of what we do. So although the work is, spans a lot outside of just the architectural market, spans a ton of different disciplines. The real central focus in all our work is communities and the communities we serve. And so specifically in Texas, in the buildings group, we really focus on that K through 12, which we'll get into. But in terms of our civil engineers and our structural engineers, our environmental scientists, all these folks, really what the heart of what we're all doing is really serving the local communities, but with a global presence. And so the different sectors that we really encompass are the buildings group, which is includes structural engineering for buildings, mechanical engineering for buildings, and also architecture, landscape architecture, and planning. And then under that umbrella, is where we fit in. Then there's energy and resources, which is looking at, sustainable energy solutions, whether it be wind, solar, environmental services. A lot of this includes, typically when you're doing a building, you have to fill out what they call an environmental impact report. So services like that, infrastructure. So whether it be transit or roads, and then also water in terms of, cleaning and purifying. So it's a large company, but you can see that central focus in all of those sectors that I've just kind of identified really is kind of servicing and bettering the communities, that we serve locally. So, but we have a lot of locations that we are serving and a lot of local communities that we're serving. So we have a presence in 6 continents, and the missing one obviously is Antarctica. There's 22,000 employees and 350 locations. And that may seem daunting, but especially I think that this would resonate in terms of 2020 and learning and teaching remotely. A lot of these employees are just a Zoom or a Teams call away, which is really great because I think Juanir can attest to it too. There are so many experts in the nature of our practice is that it is quite interdisciplinary. There are so many experts at your disposal at Stantec. So a case in point, I was working on a competition for a school here, and I had to put together a site plan, and we wanted to know the impact of a very busy intersection, if we would be able to, or if we would need to accommodate a stoplight there. And as architects, that's out of our discipline. And so we could actually, for this competition, approach some of our traffic engineers and ask for their kind of advice. And that goes with acousticians, in terms of clean and green energy. So it is really nice. And I think, again, that global presence may seem daunting, but it's actually something that is really quite nice to leverage.
Yeah, I would say there is something, we've been doing this before, even before COVID, of working virtually with the teams. And it comes with a sense of we do have expertise in the house of almost anything you can think of it. And what it does is there are some projects that we have worked, there is just a Stantec team. And I've been working with teams, with architecture team. I have experience with people working with me from Alaska, from Canada, from Washington, D.C. So this whole coordination of virtual, when we went through the whole COVID and everything become virtual, it was so almost a natural process because that's how we've been doing. It's a very common, even here locally, we have the San Antonio office, and in Texas, we have San Antonio, Austin, Plano, and Houston. And the interaction of those offices is it's a heavily interaction, and mainly between Austin and San Antonio. So working with Austin team, it's a almost everyday thing for me. We've been doing this. When we get into the COVID in the virtual world, we were doing already there. It didn't feel much different than what we're doing. It helps, as Noelle mentioned, it may scare see that large number. It doesn't feel that way. We still work very close to our co-workers, to the local. We still have the mentorship from our bosses and the orientation that we need to grow. I don't feel a number. I have access to my supervisors. I have access to the information of a growth that helps, because I think when you see a company that's big and you think you're just gonna we have a process and you don't feel a number, but that number helps with develop what we do. It also helps us to grow. As I mentioned, it gives us the flexibility to move from office to office. I started in Austin. I came to San Antonio. We have quite a few coworkers. I know a coworker studying in Austin, came to San Antonio, got his master's, and went to Washington, D.C. So we have this flexibility of moving around even inside and in different cities, which I think it's a benefit. I see it as a benefit.
Yeah, most definitely. I would say too, I know when I was in the Austin office, I would go home to visit my family in the holidays in Washington, D.C., and I would fly back earlier before the rush and work at the D.C. office for a couple of weeks without needing to take vacation. And also, you know, if you do need to relocate because your spouse is moving or what have you, you do have that option of saying, well, maybe I could stay with the company, but just work in a different office. So that's really great. And so, you know, just this is only a handful of the typologies we work with, but again, kind of the idea of interdisciplinary practice and kind of the many different, you know, architectural typologies, but also those outside. So, you know, I think one I would want to highlight is skate parks. When I was in the Austin office, there was this gentleman that moved from Southern California to Austin, which is a typical trend. And he is a landscape architect that specializes specifically in skate parks. And while he was there, did a skate park in Pflugerville, but he happened to be Tony Hawk's very good friend and had done his personal skate park in his backyard. So it's just, again, it's just a highlight of kind of the very many different individuals and interesting individuals you could come across at Stantec. And then, you know, again, in terms of infrastructure and highways, the other one I would like to highlight is the museum. We do experiential kind of a theme design, and that one is in the works. It's the Lucas Museum that's coming out to kind of showcase. It's the Lucas Museum of Narrative, which obviously will heavily focus on Star Wars. But again, just kind of all the different interesting disciplines that we broach. And so, Juanir, I don't know if you want to talk about the higher ed focus.
So the firm is very large and have different expertise. Most of it, each office has developed its own expertise in the area. The Texas offices are very specialized in the educational and any related education. Not that we don't do any other projects, but those are most of the projects that we're known for. So the same way when we go to a specific project that is a little bit out of our expertise and San Antonio office, we look for an expert inside of the firm. People come to us in Texas to look for get experience and educational projects. So that one is Texas A&M San Antonio, and we put it there because I was actually part of the team of this one. And it's educational, it's high ed, but it's a heavily mechanical, technical of computer and technical infrastructure that we had to work with our Cleveland office. They are specialized in labs, and that's where this building is a science building with the labs and all types of labs. And that relationship really helps to stay and manage and help us to get the expertise that exposed me to learn an area that I wasn't exposed before, because now I'm working really with heavily science building and within a high ed, which usually my area of work, it's a K through 12. That exposed me, and that it's right here down the road. If you guys want to see, it's a very nice building, well done. And again, that was done with different teams of Stantec. We have consultants for outside, but we have civil. It was done with the civil team. It was done with the architecture team. We have the experts and labs from Cleveland Stantec team, and that management. Us coming together, it helps because it's all internal, and that relationship between with different office, it's been happening for a long time with the company.
Yeah. And so, we, again, I think in that vein of, we kind of have, kind of these different disciplines at our disposal and kind of the, a global presence, but you can see that all the projects that we're talking about are those that we have touched and that are kind of in our local community, whether it be Texas, San Antonio, or Austin at large. And so, but we're bringing kind of that global expertise to each of these projects, which again, I think is really, really great. So the two projects that I've worked on in higher ed while at Stantec has been Texas A&M University College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Sciences. So you may know that A&M is probably generally ranked #1 for their vet school. And so this was a really neat opportunity. And again, heavy lab emphasis. And then also, there was an area for horses within the facility. So it was just a really kind of interesting project. And this was my first project when I came to Stantec that I was able to work on. And I would just say, that the educational focus that we bring is really in establishing those collaborative spaces. But it is really great to be exposed to other work, whether it be lab or medical. And I think what's great about the educational type in general is that it opens doors to other programs. So if you're working on a school, you may be exposed to more medical spaces or lab spaces, depending on the specialty of the building, right? And then additionally at Texas State, we worked on housing. So yet it is under the educational umbrella, it also kind of opens that door to housing makeup, and all of these project types are very different, and yet still under that bigger umbrella of education. So our higher ed experience is broad across the firm wide rather, but again, what the projects we've touched in higher ed have been local and in Texas.
This is one of the projects that really touched my heart. This is the first project I did as a project manager. And I emphasize that because the company gave the flexibility of choose your career path. It was the point that I decided I want to become a project manager, and I started with that project, which it's a sweet project. It's Lido Elementary School. It's just south here of San Antonio. We won the Caldell Award, Design Award, and this is the high excellence design of excellence of schools in Texas. And we say this is the high because it's not only mentioned by architects and designers, it's voted by teachers and the school boards and planners. And so there is taken not only how pretty it looks, but how functional, how it works. And we won this one. It was my first project as a project manager, and we won 2015. And this award happens every year for the past, I think, 17 years. The firm has won 13 out of the 17, if I'm not mistaken. That brings the quality of the work we do. I am even more proud of this one because when we won this, just speaking as a project manager, the budget for this project was $111 per square footage, and we were competing with the schools that had 3 times of that budget. And what that means is we were able to provide an excellent school, be very creative, win the design and still being in a low budget. And then the reward in being a project manager, you deal with that part of the process. But and it's a pretty school. It's not the budget, it's how you use it. It's a fun school, and the kids love it be there. It's this colorful and open with a lot of natural light.
Yeah, and I think Juanir, I know from one of your project quotes is that your favorite thing about your job is kind of seeing the faces of the kids when they walk into the school for the first time, or you know, the client we serve is obviously the ISD or, you know, the building facilities folks, but at the end of the day, I think at Stantec we really view our client as the student, and also the teachers that are working in the space, and knowing that we're really shaping their day-to-day and providing a positive learning environment for them. I think it really helps us get up every morning and come to work with, you know, not dreading our jobs. So this project was one that I had the opportunity to work on in Maynard, Texas. Maynard is just outside Austin and east of Austin, and unfortunately, due to a lot of the gentrification in East Austin, a lot of the, you know, I would say a lot of the underrepresented and underserved populations moved out to Maynard. And so, you know, having that in mind, that this school is servicing these folks, again, was really something that, you know, was in our thoughts when we were conceiving this design. And so what we really wanted to do was kind of expose these students to kind of this environment that felt as if it was kind of a high-tech workspace, i.e. Google or what have you. And so really embodying kind of the open learning concept, and having breakout areas and rooms for students to, you know, kind of support what they use as a teaching platform called project-based learning. And so, you know, when you work in educational architecture, you learn specific curriculum or teaching methods that, you know, the architecture should support. So in this case, that was project-based learning. So these students work on projects their entire semester, and then they need areas to kind of break out and you know, really brainstorm together. And so there's a ton of, and you know, the featured ones are these kind of cantilevering breakout spaces over into the main space, which is that cafeteria and library space. But, you know, really understanding kind of what's going on in the inner workings of the schools always informs our design. And, you know, like Juanir said, this project also won a Caudell Award. And it was really a team effort, right, in terms of the overall schematic design, and then understanding, you know, working with our structural engineers, how are we going to cantilever these conference rooms off into this big 3-story space, and you know, our interiors group even helping with the furniture contract, because there was so much furniture in this project. It was a really great experience, and for me, I had just become licensed at this time, and was a project architect on this job. So this one is close to my heart as well. So in K through 12, I would say like our Texas office really is an expert. And so we've been approached by school districts throughout the country, and have also just serviced those districts as design architect, being kind of experts in this this project type. And so one of those is Olathe West High School. So I was on the design side of this project, and we kind of delivered. And you'll, when you're in practice, you'll probably hear about this. You deliver kind of a design document, and then the record architect takes it over and documents it and make sure to get it through the permit process and everything. So, but we were on the design side of this one. And it's quite a remarkable space. This one did have a very luxurious, I wouldn't say luxurious, but a larger budget that could accommodate, stairs cantilevering over 3-story spaces. But this project, we were really proud of in terms of the underlying concepts behind it. There aren't any really, there's not real classrooms. Teachers are called facilitators, and they don't have their own classroom. They check classrooms out or workspaces out, and they will share kind of a common office, if you will, where they can kind of collaborate off one another, as opposed to a teachers being kind of siloed in each of their individual classrooms. They're able to kind of share ideas, and likewise students are kind of responsible, similar to Maine or New Tech, is kind of this project-based learning, right? This project was neat in that the year that it was completed, or I believe that when the schematic design was completed, our programmers, who are even at the front end of the design architects, who kind of came up with the concepts of how these classrooms, or lack thereof, would work and facilitate learning, had the opportunity to present this project at South by Southwest EDU that year. So a really neat project, and just a showcase of, like, if you are interested in working in kind of our Texas offices, that you will be able to have kind of that, or develop that expertise in educational design. And so just quickly, a few other projects that we've touched on. Johnson High School, which recently opened in Hayes ISD. This project has a CTE focus. So I would say inside of kind of the educational umbrella, we also have a really strong emphasis on CTE environments, which means career technology education. And what's nice about CTE is that, again, you're kind of developing or getting exposed to other program topologies under the CTE umbrella. So in a CTE, a high school, I will need to design and coordinate and document a salon within that, and a working auto garage. And a culinary arts program with a restaurant. So it's really nice again, I'm obviously biased because I've worked so much in education, but I think that the educational work just spans so much more than just a classroom. And then Deering Elementary, which is a great elementary in Pflugerville ISD, where it's a net zero ready. Had they installed the solar panels, it would have been a net zero elementary school, which speaks specifically to our focus on sustainability and schools. We are educating the next generation who will further be stewards of our planet. And so instilling those values of stewardship and using the elementary school, or whatever the learning environment is, as its own kind of laboratory or display of sustainable practices is always at the forefront of our mind when designing. Additionally, Seal Middle School, in that same vein, is the idea of kind of stewardship. There's always a strong emphasis on sustainability in our schools. And typically they are designed to be almost net zero. If Texas ISDs did kind of support the LEED certification process, no doubt in my mind that they would be silver. I know that when I worked in Maryland, all publicly funded schools had to be silver minimum. And I would say that the schools that we've done in Texas exceed the sustainability school goals that I had seen when I was practicing in Maryland. And then the San Antonio Autism Treatment Center, I don't know, Juanira, do you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, this one, it was done out of our San Antonio office with collaboration with Austin. It's just outside of Nacogdoches, north of San Antonio. Not a big school, but a very specific school. Think of design and everything in the exponential of the process of that one. Everything matters. And in autism treatment, the floor pattern, the color, the texture. So the sensorial experience inside this building, it's more than ever important of when you design. Everything for the step, for the colors, for the position of those columns, how that needs to be discussed with the teachers and with the administrator to understand that process. So it was a very unique design. And as Noelle explains, and we think I'm doing this for 15 years, and people say, don't you get tired of design just schools? I don't, because each school it's its own thing inside of the school because of all the experience you have to provide. We design fine arts, we design theaters, we design gyms, we design sports lockers, we design. So it is educational, but you touching base in the design of all different type of, you design libraries. So you have to know those knowledge and you have to get it. So you're exposed to all type of architecture, although you're still doing it in a school. So it's not just a classroom, it's very open, and the flexibility depends on each school, but and that is one of the things that so it's not the same thing over and over. And schools, public schools, projects tend to be very fast because they go for bond pass, and a year your project needs to be ready, and a year and a half the school is ready. So it's a fast pace. You have no time for much of just thinking very thoroughly and get going. I say this because if you design a hospital, I know some teams in the Stantec hospital stay in the same project for 10 years. That's the long of the process it takes. So I've been working with, and even higher education can take 5 years. So our process is, so in the 5 years, I have worked in 3 projects, while my coworker can maybe just be in the same project.
Yeah. So we wanted to touch briefly on our internship program. And Juanira, did you want to speak to kind of some expectations of softwares that we typically have for intern applicants?
Sure. So the first thing we ask, if you're considering thinking apply for an architecture internship with us, we're going to ask you how experienced with Revit. There is probably the top on the list over there because it's mainly how we develop our projects. We've been working with Revit since 2009. AutoCAD for us, it's a process, just open civil drawings or old drawings that the clients have given existing drawings, and we open everything. It's so the experience, if you've been exposed, if you're not exposed in school, I would say ask to be, get an idea. We don't expect as you started to be experienced, fully experienced, but that you have a knowledge of how to use, because most of the projects, all the projects we develop in architecture, it will be in Revit. So for all the engineers, with the exception of civil, all the mechanical, the MEP department in our company does in Revit, so it's a structure. So everything is around Revit. I would say is something you should consider learn if you have not. Now, if you're in architecture, of course, you come from a school, we want you being very experienced with the presentation. So they comes with the Photoshop, and then it comes with the InDesign, and it comes with that presentation, but skills. And we also like, and they would take in consideration when you put your portfolio to present to us, how all the architects should know how important is to put the portfolio for interview. So those quality, those experience counts a lot for us. And of course, you have to, as you as is in the slide, have to have communication skills. We work with some other software because of the sustainability we do. There is a lot of plugins with the Revit, like Sapphire, that does the analysis. I know HSA, the students are learning some Sapphire. It's a good thing to know. We used that software in the beginning of the design to get in a sense of how we're doing with the lighting with our projects. What else? Adobe and all the typical ones, but be creative and have a communication skill for sure. There are some of the things. For architecture, it always comes with a portfolio, how you present your portfolio, your work, your experience. It's always how you put that information in the portfolio present for the interview.
Yeah, and I would also say, I mean, like under communication skills, right? And my experience in being an intern coordinator for several years, I found that the most successful interns typically aren't afraid to ask questions and not afraid to ask the stupid question, right? Because we don't expect you to know everything. You are an intern, and so you're there, one, to assist on our projects and to help us, but you're also there for yourself to learn. And so the main means to learn is to ask questions, I would say. That's not to say you don't kind of do the research and pay attention, but asking questions, I think, is so important, because I have seen in the past interns or new hires alike be afraid to kind of put themselves out there and ask the question and go down a rabbit hole of whatever they're working on and waste hours of kind of unproductive hours because they didn't want to ask a question. So I just always want to emphasize that with the interns, that feel free to ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. And then, Revit is key. I mean, it is a reality of the current profession. We're not unique at Stantec in that we basically do all our documentation and even a lot of our design in Revit. And then in the front end, I would say SketchUp most often our design architects use, and Inkscape for rendering. So just to add to kind of those lists of
we also use so it depends on the area that you be taking your career inside. If in an architecture, so if everybody needs to know the Revit, but if you're taking to become a designer, then you're going to spend a lot of time in a SketchUp with the Revit, Lumion, and Inkscape, which does all the rendering, or any other rendering software that you feel comfortable, because that's what you emphasize. The PA spends a lot of time, most of everything, it's going with the Revit and the Sapphire. We have another software, there's a plugin, Dynamo, which is data information that we collect and help us a lot. Project manager, again, the common software is always Revit. Project management does a lot of the management, but that comes out the Windows, right? The Word in Excel, and put it in spreadsheets is a part of that skills that it's not in those days, are not any extra of people already know since high school.
Yeah.
But that more or less how it goes. We do have a summer program, internship, and what I want to say is what Noelle it's telling you is our experience inside of a area, and because the firm is so big, we break in sectors as she shows, and each sector has the financial department inside, so by areas, so that we call BC, business center. So I may be under the buildings, we all under the buildings, but in Texas we have one business center, and Arizona has a different one, and we all answering to one type of that of the structure of the tree of the company, but we kind of work independently. So what we're talking about is our experience with our BC. And even inside of the San Antonio office, all the Texas office, San Antonio has, our office has civil, landscape, and architecture, and water inside of our office. So all this, we work together, but each of them with a different BC. Same thing for Austin, same thing for Plan in Houston. We consolidate and we have all those experienced professionals inside. We're working side by side, sometimes work in the same project, sometimes we don't work with each other at all. Each one is doing your area of expertise. So that's why I say this when I'm talking about this is our experience. When I say summer internship is for a BC of architecture to any, which of those offices in Texas. And we have the program for the summer, and the summer program intensify, and for interior design as well, architecture, interior design. And we hire for the entire summer. We really emphasize to get the experience. When we become, as Noelle said, I was an internship supervisor, we are responsible to make sure that the intern is doing at least 80% of their time of being hands-on project. And the other 20%, it's also the experience that maybe Noelle talk about with a project that they're all working together. But that being said, is we try very hard to be very productive in the learning process for anyone who comes to work with us during the summer. Depends on the workload. Some of the intern stays with us. We hire in the end. Depends of the performance of the intern. We hire in the end. But anyhow, and if you're interested in applying, you can always go to a website. It's hard to tell which office is hiring. I can tell what San Antonio office it's doing right now is hiring, maybe Austin. I would not even try to say what's going on in Plan in Houston, although we work all together. So it's really important for you go to the company's website and see where are the openings and verify where they're hiring. They can vary to one to the other, but for us at least we have that summer program.
Yeah, and I just wanted to share, I think this was 2016. I actually thought it was 17, but I was coordinator of this group in the Austin office when I was there, and they were all really great women. Two of them ended up being permanent hires with us after the fact. And some of them are extremely well spoken. Gabby, I would say, I felt like she could run for Miss America, as you'll see in the video link. But I just wanted to show kind of a brief video of their experience at Stantec in the internship program. And then also to say that, at Stantec as a coordinator in the past, I know that the interns come together with interns throughout the BC, which when we say BC means Business Center in Texas. So we do have a time where the Houston, the Plano, and the Austin and San Antonio offices get together and kind of have an intern kickoff meeting, which is really great. And we didn't have it this past year because of COVID, but I'm hoping that, that tradition will continue. And these interns across the BC come together, and they also, that other 20% is training, but also a design project. So we'll give the interns like a real life design problem. And they'll work together to come up with a design proposal by the end of the summer.
So what Noelle is saying is we usually partner with a nonprofit, and we created a project that becomes pro bono project that the interns develop, and it's all the interns. So what it's an opportunity to the interns to have the relationship with the client, because they get to meet with the clients, ask the questions. And also not only the architecture interns, this is a program that works with the structuring with the engineers. Right. So at the end, they developed a building that they had to go through the experience of collaborating with the structure, with the MEP, with every part of the building, and they're all interns and they all have the experience. In the end, all the office come together to present the solution and present to the owner. So the owner in the end get 3 or 4 options of design and with the collaboration, but that the 20% of their time it is spared to that project.
And I think that I forgot about that, Juanir. That's a really great thing to emphasize is, you know, again, I think in keeping with Stantec being interdisciplinary, our interns work together. So the structural engineer intern will come up with a structure for the design that the architects have come up with. So it really is kind of mimicking or representative of kind of a real life scenario that you would find in the profession. So I'm gonna see, hopefully this works.
My name is Gabriella Vermeyer, and I am an incoming fourth-year architecture student at the University of Arkansas.
My name is Anna Foley. I attend Texas State University. I'm majoring in interior design.
Hi, my name is Hannah Dorfko. I'm from Medina, New York, and I go to Cornell University and study design and environmental analysis.
Hi, my name is Valentina Rodriguez, and I go to the University of Texas at Austin.
My 6-word story is nothing is more beautiful than kindness.
My 6-word story is always embrace the people around you. My 6-word story is joy is learning through the process.
My 6-word story is designing for a better future together.
I chose Stantec because of the amazing opportunity there is to grow here within the Austin community and the global design community as well. I am very fortunate to have been a part of a team that is very forward-thinking and really pushes the boundaries for what educational architecture and research can really be. I love being a part of a firm where learning and education is not only encouraged, but it's almost expected of the people who work here. I love being in that realm of participation to where I feel included as well, as though I am a part of the team.
I chose Stantec because they invited me to a welcoming community that allowed me to work on hands-on with clients in every project. It also allowed me to further my education and really explore the field. I chose Stantec for an internship because my old TA recommended it. She used to work here, and so I interviewed with her and a few of the employees, and they were very welcoming. And since I've come, I've learned a lot just by being around the environment and asking questions and getting really good answers from all of the people here, and they made me feel really at home.
The reason why I chose Stantec was because I wanted to get a real world experience of what the architecture field is like outside of school. I've been in the Stantec Austin office for about a month, and I've been getting a lot of hands-on experience with the different facets of the architecture world, and I've been enjoying my experience here with the different projects that I've been given and the responsibilities I've been given, and also with the people that I work with, and especially when I get stuck in things or when I want to learn more about a certain tool that school doesn't provide. The experience here has helped me.
I have really loved the work that I've been able to do this summer, and I very much look forward to what the future holds within my design career and Stantec as well.
Okay. So, you know, I think that I'll stop share, but I think that gives you, you know, a brief kind of understanding of what our internship experience would be. I hope that video was helpful. And then I think, you know, again, just kind of emphasizing our market focus, but also the opportunities kind of across the nation that Stantec has to offer when you're graduating or when you're thinking about internships. You don't necessarily need to just limit it to Texas if you aren't from Texas. You know, so I hope that was informative. Juanir, do you have any kind of closing comments before we get any questions?
No, I think we cover most of it. We open for any question that we may have not answered all your questions. Please feel free to let us know. Again, the company is large. If I can say something, it's I always felt it has the benefit, working for Stantec has a benefit of all the benefits of a large firm, but it still feels like you're working for a small because of the relationship. It may sound cheesy. I've been here for a reason. The team we work is amazing. It's very collaborative. People makes the difference, and the meaning of the work you do also, if you do what you love, also makes the difference. So I think that's it.
Great.
Do we have any additional questions from our student participants? If you wanted to hop on real quick or put something in the chat.
Is it okay if I just ask the question through the
Mauricio, I know you. How are
Yeah.
you?
I'm good, and you?
Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Same. I actually was part of the summer internship this last summer. Yeah, but I was in Houston. But it was an amazing experience. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and the whole collaborative aspect of it, and with the nonprofit organization, I think it was an amazing experience. But I guess my question was, so I know you were talking about how your client is technically the school districts, but you said that you enjoy looking at the children and the teachers once they're using the finished building. At any point through the design process, do you have like an interview process with either the teachers or the students where you discuss like what they're expecting, what they want? I know you show the CT building that it's more like specializing the things that they need to have in the classroom. So do you have any process like that? And if you do, how do you work that out?
That's a great question, Mauricio. Munira, I can answer it if you don't mind. So at Stantec, we have what we call a separate, technically we build to it separately. It's called research and benchmarking. And there's a number of different categories for research and benchmarking. And one of them is on the category of innovative learning environments. And so what this group has done in the past, to answer your question, has done post-occupancy reports, specifically with our net zero elementary schools, but understanding the benefit of things like natural daylighting, but also if the learning environments are working, because a lot of times we're doing things that are unconventional. And so we need to make sure that, we'll ask questions in terms of student focus, student participation within those spaces, but also just kind of the health and wellness aspect, again, has also been a strong emphasis. So in the past, our innovative learning environments research and benchmarking group and also our sustainability group have paired together to kind of do those post-occupancy studies. But in terms of marketing, right, we go to the districts and the teachers and get feedback and recommendation on our designs. But yes, we have had those.
I think it should add to that. One thing I like what we do, we don't do cookie cutters design. We don't, and that each client, it's a client. So we work with the district on the side of, because we have to follow programming and we have to follow budget but we make sure that we're meeting with the users, because they're the ones that will be happy or not in that space. So that happens a lot of in the design and the programming phase, that we going through the questions of what we design and we asking to sit down with the users, teachers and students to see what they think and hear from them. It's not a straight line. It's a back and forth and up and down, because we have to be in the middle somewhere. We need to answer to the owners, to the ISD, but we also want to make sure that we applying the needs of the everyday, that we're not losing anything in the middle. But yes, we certainly do that. It's part of our process.
Yeah, and like when you're saying, embedded in our process is that user group meeting, which is so important. And the user groups are the teachers that are going to be using the spaces. So we're not just communicating back and forth with kind of district folks. We're with the people that are on the ground or in the classrooms, so to speak. So.
Thank you.
So we are about at our time. So I wanted to once again thank our guests so much for taking the time out of your schedules today to share with our students. This was a really great presentation. I learned a lot. I hope I'm sure our students did as well. So thank you so much. If there are any follow-up questions from any of our students, you can feel free to contact me and I can get in touch with any of our speakers. Happy to pass along any additional questions, but thank you so much. We hope to see you at future events like this and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. We hope-
Yes, thank you for having us. Take care, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.